I'm Tom Shillue in for Greg Gutfeld. Let's do some headlines. Eric Adams has dropped out of the race for mayor of New York City. Andrew Cuomo was so excited about the news, he spent the afternoon sexually harassing himself. According to sources, the U.S. is preparing options for military strikes on drug targets inside Venezuela. This, of course, despite fierce protests from one Democrat. Over the weekend, Charlie Sheen's ex-girlfriend stood by Charlie's claim that Bill Clinton hit on her in the 80s. Bill denies this and said he only hits on girls in their 20s. Over the weekend, President Trump announced he's sending troops to Portland, Oregon to protect ICE facilities under attack by Antifa. They've already begun dispersing the crowds by holding up job applications. J.D. Vance told Gavin Newsom to go straight to hell. In Newsom's defense, he already lives in California. Over the weekend, $1 billion worth of rare whiskey was stolen from a Washington distillery. Police are on the hunt for one main suspect. like the stash there. Speaking of Kamala Harris, she claims she had a friend at Fox News who was leaking her information on election night. Wow, even she gets her information from Fox News. And Royal Caribbean is canceling scheduled visits to Haiti due to kidnapping, crime, terrorist activity, and civil unrest. But travel experts say if you're looking for all that, just book a cruise on Carnival. Now to my Searing monologue. We used to have a left, right, and center in this country. Conservatives and liberals, each with a strong base and a healthy group of voters that could swing either way. Like a seesaw with J.B. Pritzker and a hippo. But nowadays, how could anyone be a swing voter when the choice between the two sides couldn't be any clearer? Let's take a look at Portland, preferably from a distance because of the smell. On one side, we have Trump, who's sending troops to the, quote, war-ravaged blue city to protect ICE from Antifa attacks. And after what happened last week in Dallas, he's taking no chances. But the other side, they're trying to stop him. Oregon sued Trump for his decision, claiming it's incompatible with liberty and democracy. And Oregon Democrat Senator Ron Wyden posted a video of peaceful Portlanders going about their day, essentially saying, look, we don't have any crime here. Right, because gangbangers and domestic terrorists love posing for the camera. Then there's Chicago. After cleaning up D.C., Trump's cracking down on crime in the Windy City. They call it the Windy City from the bullets whizzing past your ears. But for the Dems, preventing violence is fascist and lawlessness is rewarded. The Chicago Teachers Union mourned the death of convicted cop killer Assata Shakur in an X post with this caption, "Rest in power." Well, it's a good thing their students can't read. In New York, the story's the same. As Trump arrests violent illegals, communism's new hope, Zoran Mamdani, is pledging $100 million to give migrants facing deportation free lawyers. Talk about radical. Even AOC is like, take it down a notch, comrade. That's on top of the $54 million New York City already billed to fight Trump's immigration agenda, all coming out of the taxpayers' pocket. But here's the thing. This wasn't always the Democrats' brand. Before they screamed Nazi, denied violent crime, and allowed men in women's locker rooms, they used to sound like this.
We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
As to illegal aliens, we agree with you that we do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens.
Get them their MAGA hats. Didn't they sound like Trump supporters? But somewhere along the way, they sprinted to the extreme left, bending the knee to their radical ideology. But despite what the left says about Trump, he never moved far right. He moved toward you, the people. Secure borders, no inflation, safe streets, things we all once agreed upon suddenly became evil. They branded him authoritarian, smeared his base, and tried to throw him in jail to hide the truth that the MAGA movement is the new center. MAGA has one guiding principle: common sense. So swing voters used to have a tough choice, but now it's never been this obvious. It's like choosing between Sydney Sweeney or Julia Sweeney. Seems like an easy choice to me. Let's welcome tonight's guest. His act inspires people to take up jogging, usually after the first joke. Comedian Joe Mackey. She's as tough as nails, even when she's off the rails. Fox News anchor Julie Banderas. His head was the inspiration for the jelly bean. Comedian Jim Norton. And she's too embarrassed to tell her son she works for Greg. New York Times best-selling author and Fox News contributor Kat Temp. All right, Joe Mackey. Could you swing either way at any time? You know, what I'm saying is, did you...
He's asking if you have sex with men.
No. I'm saying, I mean, was there a time in your career, you know, showbiz people are very far left. Do you remember we used to have a vibrant center in this country?
We used to. The only way I could swing both ways now is when I'm playing softball. So do whatever you want with that one.
Hey,
but it hasn't.
Good skill.
It's not really left versus right anymore. It's academia versus reality in a sense, because only people with college advanced degrees could possibly think that letting someone out of jail for 12 violent felonies would make things better, as if they're going to say, oh, that was so nice that they keep letting me out. I'm not going to stab this person in the abdomen anymore. It just doesn't work like that. And what happened on the left is that if you disagree with them, they kick you out. So the left keep moving further and further left. So what used to be the liberal position now seems right wing. So you ask someone how many genders there are, and they're like 64. They're like, no, 64 was last year. You're out. And
you're out.
It's made people so crazy and isolated and lonely that reality's become completely inverted. Take New York City, for instance. Mom Dami's plan is to spend $100 million to bring in lawyers to make things better. He's trying to bring in lawyers to make things better, and he's winning.
Yeah, it's so true. Julie, we do have a lot of people in this country who call themselves swing voters. They call themselves, the independents are always growing in size. But Trump has done a lot with the MAGA movement to kind of neutralize that, bringing in people like RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, right?
Mm-hmm. I want to get back to his softball metaphor.
Yeah.
Like, so you swing both ways, like ball or bat?
I bat from both.
I don't like to not understand things, so I wanted to get to the bottom of that.
Swing. I'm assuming the bat, right? You swing the bat.
Switch hitter if
okay,
yep.
So he swings both ways. That's fine. But ultimately, he's going to pick one or the other. That's the whole point. And I guess you're going female?
Female, yes.
You don't identify as me. Okay, fine. So let me get back to your question. So swinging both ways is something that typically you are going to find some sort of side, either left or right. And right now, I think independent, the middle doesn't really make any sense because the left is so off whack that if you're going to actually support somebody like Zohran Mamdani, who wants to spend $100 million in New York taxpayers' money on lawyers, I can speak from experience. Lawyers are expensive. They cost a lot of money, especially, you know, when you pay them for years on end. This is going to take forever. They're talking about 400,000 New York City residents who they're going to spend this money on for legal, free legal. I want free legal. I'm going to deport myself and come back and get a free attorney.
It might work. Okay, Jim. You've been here in New York. You remember what happened. It seemed ungovernable at one time, and then they did the unthinkable. They elected a Republican for mayor, Giuliani, and he, along with the police, they changed the attitude in New York. But now we're going back completely the other way. Do New Yorkers not remember where we were?
Well, I mean, I guess we do. And you're saying Giuliani closed all of the great places I used to go to meet friends. It was like a social club. You'd watch a movie together, you'd talk through the hole in the wall. And shake hands. But yeah, look, I look at swing stuff like, as far as like, I think any state that isn't a swing state is stupid. Like, I believe that whether it's New York, whether it's Texas, whether it's Louisiana or California, any state that always is predictable in how they vote is stupid, because it means that nobody has to earn your vote. Like, I think the swing states are the only ones with any balls in our country whatsoever. They're the only, anybody who's not decided until you prove yourself worthy is a thinking person. Because the whole country is like a couple going through a contentious divorce. Like, the facts don't mean anything. They only mean something according to how they affect my line of thinking. Like, if someone is in trouble for saying something, if I agree with them, they're being punished for free speech. But if I don't agree with them, well, that's consequences. So you understand? There's no, like, ultimate moral right and wrong. It's just people kind of agreeing or disagreeing according to their belief system. So I think if you're not a swing voter, you're stupid.
This is amazing. You know, Jim, he kind of acted like he was agreeing with me, but I think he was saying the opposite of what I'm saying, Kat. I like the red states. I like them as red as I can get them. That's what I would say. Well, what do you think, Kat? Because you're someone who's often, come from a background of third party.
Yeah.
But I think that with Tulsi Gabbard, with RFK Jr., Trump has kind of pushed aside that third party thinking. And he's embraced such a large swath of what used to be the swing voter, because I think he is taking centrist policies. What do you think of that, my central thesis of my monologue?
Well, I am independent. I'm a registered independent.
Yes.
I think that, when it comes to the topics that you brought up in your monologue, I do agree that crime is bad. I do agree that violent criminals should be in jail. Unfortunately, I do think Mamdani is going to win, and I'm scared for what it's going to do to New York. I mean, what, you disagree? You think Shillue has got this? Come on.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I'm willing to hit the trail with Curtis Shillue. I want to put on my beret and go stop crime on the subway.
All right, well,
but
you might have to.
I know, exactly.
By yourself.
Right. It's going to be me and Curtis out there. But why is it? Why the backsliding? I mean, young people even, they remember when the city was governable, and
I listen, I saw a lady taking a dump on the street on Friday, and it was still light outside, okay? So I get it, but I think, also I think that there's just some people, you will talk to them, and they'll say the exact opposite. They'll be like, I don't know how you possibly could support Trump, or I don't know how you could support anybody but Trump. And it can feel like we're living in two different countries, but there are some people who are independent still, but they don't go viral as often, because it's not as interesting on the internet.
At this point, because of what's happening, now Trump has defined it in such a way that you have Democrats now are coming out, they're pro-crime, they don't want to support the border, so...
Well, I will say I think what Mackie said has a lot to do with it, whereas I will get criticism from people on the right wing often for not being right wing, or this opinion isn't right wing enough, but there are people on the left who won't even speak to me because I'm not left wing enough, or because I work here. So I feel like the right is at least more willing to have a conversation by far than the left.
That's their slogan. We don't like you, but we'll talk to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.